Okay, section 1.3, we're solving equations. And actually doing a lot of translating before we even get to that. So here's a nice picture of the world, and then here's the world as scientists see it. All right, quick reminder, when you are adding two numbers together, the solution is called a sum. When you are subtracting two numbers, the solution is called a difference. When you are multiplying, you end with a product. And when you're dividing, you have what's called a quotient. Okay, because we're going to start off with example 1 here. Take it from verbal to algebraic. So I saw this in a book once, that's kind of cute. You're taking it from English to Mathlish, all right? This little thing is not in the right spot. Oh, there we go. All right, now algebraic expression. Expression means you do not have an equal sign. It's just like 2 plus 3, right? To represent the verbal expression, 7 less than a number. All right, this gets kids every time. And one time, a long time ago, I had a student, and he must have learned this from some other school or some other teacher, but when he saw 7 less, he always put the negative sign right there and then the number. So, or if you write it like this, it will also be okay. So 7 less than number. This is saying that you have so much money in your pocket. Let's just pretend you have 50 bucks in your pocket. That's supposed to be a dollar sign. And I have 7 less than your number, because your number is the money that you have in your pocket. Wouldn't that be $50 minus 7? So I'd have 43. So you can always go ahead and think, okay, the number is how much money I have in my pocket or somebody else has in their pocket, and then you're comparing to that. Okay? Part B, write an algebraic expression. Remember, there's no equal sign. Like here, we have no equal sign. To represent the verbal expression, the square of a number decreased by the product of 5 in the number. Okay, the square of a number, I'm just going to go with n. And then it's decreased by. So that means you're taking away, if you're decreasing the amount of money in your pocket, somebody is subtracting that, right? Decreased by the product of 5 in the number. The product means multiply, so there's 5 in your number. All right, write an algebraic expression to represent the verbal expression, 6 more than a number. So 6 plus n, or you could have n plus 6. Either one works. And D, write an algebraic expression to represent the verbal expression, 2 less than the cube of a number. So this 2 less, I'm going to go ahead and put down 2 less. And we're not dealing with inequalities, so I know a lot of kids think, it would say 2 is less than. That's when you would see is less than is when you see these. Okay? We're not dealing with that today, so we can, although we will this chapter, so we'll have to get that all sorted out before the end. 2 less than the cube of a number. So if we use n again in the cube of a number. Okay, because I am saying that 2 is less than this amount, or I'm taking 2 away from this amount. All right, actually I'm not going to write this. I'll give you some options, and I hope you're listening closely, okay? Write a verbal sentence to represent 6 equals negative 5 plus x. I would say 6 is equal to the sum of negative 5 and x. Because this could be written like this as well, you could say 6 is equal to 5 less than a number. Okay, a couple options there. Part B, write a verbal sentence to represent 7y minus 2 equals 19. I want you to try to avoid, in algebra I kind of let it go, but oh my gosh, we're in algebra 2, we got to step it up here. I kind of don't want you to write 7 times y minus 2 equals 19. Okay, let's use one of those words from our previous screen. So the difference of 7y and 2. Notice how I go in order. The difference of 7y and 2. Or I could say 2 less than 7 times a number. Or 2 less than the product of 7 and y. Or I could say the product of 7 and y decreased by 2 equals 19. Okay? And expect you to have something written down for example 2 in your notes. Let's solve. I think we all have the basics of solving. So here's how I kind of work through it. To solve for s, I want to get s by itself. I need to get rid of the negative 5.48. So what am I going to do? I'm going to add 5.48 to both sides of the equation. Because what I do to one side of the equation, I must also do to the other side of the equation. And if you have me for Algebra 1, you're like, no, don't say it anymore, Mrs. Talley. Enough. Okay? S is equal to 5.5. And then it says check your solution. So what we should do is we should put this 5.5 back in for s. And as you know, I'm not very good at showing my work all the time on the solution. But let me make sure I get to a good start here. 5.5 minus 5.48 equals 0.02. So this checks. So I know I've got this one right. And keep that in mind whenever you're taking a quiz or a test, especially with solving equations. Absolutely, every time you should be able to get it right. You should know before you even hand it in. Okay? I want to solve for t here. I'm multiplying by 1/2. And I know most of you guys grab calculators and you think, well, then I'm going to divide by 1/2. But what I like you to think, just because we're going to get very complicated with our equations, we're going to get, much, much higher level. Multiply by the reciprocal. And what's that word that we use in the other thing? The multiplicative inverse. So this would be 2 over 1, and take this side times 2 over 1. What happens is this 2 cancels with this 2, this 1 cancels with this 1, I'm left with the t. How do we multiply with fractions? We take the top times the top and the bottom times the bottom. Or 2 times 18 in this case is 36. If you really wanted to hit a home run here, we're going to take 36 times 1/2. Well, 36 times 1/2 is 18, so this checks. Woo! We're getting up there in the world here. Example 5 here. We have a lot of, what property is that? Oh yeah, distributive property. So 53 is equal to 3y minus 6. How'd I get that? I took 3 times everything in the parentheses. Be careful here. I am now going to take negative 2 times everything in the parentheses. So I have a negative 6y and I have a positive 2. Before I go on further any solving here, I want to simplify. I want to put like terms together. Our book would say this is substitution. I think our mind says simplify. Those are like terms and these are like terms. So now 53 is equal to negative 3y. And I have a negative 6 and a positive 2, which gives me a negative 4. And then what do? Now I don't have any more like terms to put together. I want to get y by itself. Okay, and the y and the negative 3 are kind of connected. I always call that going out on a date. And here's your little brother. We'll get the little brother out of there. Who wants their little brother with them on the date? So the opposite of minusing 4 or subtracting 4 would be to add 4 to both sides of the equation. Okay, this cancels, and now I have a 57 equals negative 3y. To get that y all by itself, right now it's multiplied by negative 3, so the opposite would be to divide by negative 3. Or you can multiply by negative 1/3. Okay, negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1. I don't bother writing the 1, I just write the y. And 57 divided by 3 is a negative 1. 9, negative 19, okay? Negative 19 minus 2 is negative 21, okay? Take that times 3, and if you take a negative 19 times 3, 27, so I have a 57 right here, minus 1, oh goodness, and then I'm going to take that times negative 2. All right, let's see here, negative 63, and then this is 56 times 2. It's actually times negative 2, but I'll take care of that in a minute. Is 112. Something's not right because I don't like the way I'm going here. I have a negative. Oh, this is supposed to be negative 57, is it not? Yes. So now I have it, wrong number now, negative 58. So negative 58 times 2, 16, 10, 11. 116, but this will be a positive 116, and you guys would all do this on your calculator, and let's see, would 53 come out to be that? I believe so. All right, so this checks, so we're good. And it would be actually more accurate, I think, if you use your calculator than trying Mrs. Talley on that one. What is the solution to this? Very, very similar to the previous one. I'm going to get you started, but I think I'm going to let you finish it. So this is going to be yours to finish. 25 equals distributive property, 6x plus 6, and then I have a minus 10x, because I take negative 5 times this. Take negative 5 times 1, so I have a negative 5 here. All right, I'm going to let you finish that one. Example 6 is all yours. Example 7, we have a nice trapezoid. I think this is our second trapezoid, and look at how far we are into Algebra 2. All this geometry. The formula for the area of a trapezoid is, just this right here. Okay. Where B is the length of one of the base, and B2 is the length of the other base, and H is the height of the trapezoid. Solve the formula for H. So in other words, we are going to take 1/2 and then B1 plus B2 times H. And we're going to get this H all by itself. Okay, one of the things I'm going to do is take this whole equation. I'm going to get rid of this 1/2. How do I do that? I multiply by 2. You don't necessarily have to do this. This could be done in actually fewer steps, but I think for the ease of explanation, we're going to do it like this. So now I have B1 plus B2, and then I have an H. And that H could go in front, but I'm going to keep it in the back here. Solving it for H, the reason why you do this is because sometimes you have to use the formula over and over and over again. Then you solve the equations over and over again. Or if you already solve it once, then you're just putting the values in. All right, this H is taken times this group. So I'm going to divide by this group. And you can do that. In fact, you have to because it is a group. So over here, I'm going to divide by the group, B1 and B2. And it might be best just to put those in the parentheses, okay? So H is actually equal to 2 times the area divided by base 1 plus base 2. All right? All right, moving on. The formula for the perimeter of a rectangle is P equals 2L plus 2W, where P is the perimeter, L is the length, and W is the width. What's the formula solved for W? Okay, here's what happens. We want to solve for W. This is connected. This is like your date. This is going to be like your little brother. Get rid of your brother, even though it's a group. What I do to one side of the equation, I must do to the other. There's a collective groan, I'm sure, going on as you're watching this video. P minus 2L. I cannot combine that in any way. It's just P minus 2L. All right, equals 2W. Now, I need to get W by itself. So I divide this side by 2, divide this entire side by 2. Okay, so now W equals. Now there is, I'm just going to write it, this is what the answer I'm going to want right at this point. Okay, we're going to leave it like this and call her good. You could write, and this is more advanced if you're like still following along, you could take P over 2, say P divided by 2, and then if you look at this part, what's 2 divided by 2? 1. And then you have the L here. As long as you take each piece and divide it by 2, you're okay. Or you just write it as this one whole sum divided by 2, which is what I would prefer. But for those of you who are a little more advanced, if you want to go ahead and do that, you can. And that ends our lesson.